Hello. Okay. Your Excellencies, distinguished members of academic community, members of civil society, dear colleagues and friends, thank you so much for joining us today, the Romanian Diplomatic Institute, to an event that it starts to become a tradition. The event organized by Energy Policy Group in partnership with the Romanian Diplomatic Institute, called Climate Diplomacy in the Central and Eastern Europe, a regional discussion, dialogue for preparing the COP30. So thank you so much for joining us today for a topic that for us is extremely important and starts to become more important, even though there are certain discussions and it seems that some parts of the community starts to be divided. But today we'll have the chance to hear from experts and from different academics, and also to have the chance to hear in the first session the keynote speeches of His Excellency, the Ambassador of Brazil. And afterwards, we'll have the chance to have a Q&A session. So without further ado, allow me to introduce the first welcome remarks delivered by Professor Vlad Nistor, Director General of the Romanian Diplomatic Institute. Professor Vlad Nistor, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great opportunity for us to organize, not for us. He is the organizer, you will hear now. But we were a part in this development, and we are, as always, try to be very involved in the dynamic of the Romanian, debates in the Romanian society on main topics. And I will thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of Federal Republic of Brazil, for this opportunity. And I will say that we are trying to organize debate like these on the main topics meaning not only and not obligatory what's happening around us. Why not war? Because we are organizing debates about the tensions in Europe and also outside Europe, but also some other subjects which can be very, very important, essential for the development of the humankind. Why not? As this is. And I will also thank Radu Dudou, who was the initiator of this debate. And he will say what was in his mind when he organized this. And I will have also to mention that Radu Dudou was one of the founders of this institute. At the beginning, in exactly 20 years ago, we were only a few, 3 or 4 or 5 of us. And he was, together with some other colleagues, one of us. Thank you for this opportunity, and I am anxious to hear what the development of the debate will be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Vlad Nistor, for the welcome remarks on behalf of the Romanian Diplomatic Institute. Now I will invite Mr. Radu Dudou, co-founder and president of the Energy Policy Group, to deliver his welcome remarks. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. And I'd like to thank in particular Professor Vlad Nistor for his kind words and his openness to host what we think is an important conversation on the topic of climate diplomacy. It is indeed the second event this year, co-organized by EPG and the IDR, Institutul Diplomatic Român, on climate diplomacy. It's a deliberate time of the year, the month of October. It comes 1 month before the COP, the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Conventions, UNCFF, okay, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So triple C, apologies. It's a big name, but it's the framework, the UN framework for these yearly, ever increasing gatherings that put on the table and debate the critical issues of climate diplomacy. And now COP30 is about to start next month in Belém, in Brazil. 30 years after the first COP took place in Berlin. So it's a year of round numbers for climate diplomacy. It's also 10 years after the famous Paris Treaty, which was marked as the major milestone of the UNFCCC system and the international agreement of basically most countries, all countries, I should say, committing to reduce carbon emissions and to put the planet on a track for no more than 2 degrees Celsius warming, if possible 1.5 degrees compared to pre-industrial baseline. And now we are in a critical time because some fundamentals of climate diplomacy have been put in question. The United Nations has, for the second time, withdrawn. It was the very first year of President Trump when he signed the withdrawal from the system. Worldwide, there is really disarray regarding to the scientific consensus and then rather the public perception of what is the scientific basis of the climate science. While there is very sound climate science, it seems that the public acceptance of this is fraying across the planet. So there are many challenges. COP30 will discuss a few key elements. So it's a very it's going to be a very consequential meeting in Belém. It is again a moment where the member states to the UNFCCC convention have to submit their national determined contributions. So basically, they have to say what exactly they are going to do and what targets they are setting to reduce carbon emissions. And sadly, even 1 month before the event, more than half of the world's countries haven't submitted any plans. Again, the issue of funding, investment and technology transfer to the global south, to the developing country is going to be critical because apparently the very generous commitments from Glasgow have not been met, and it's unlikely to be met in the current approach. So very critical issues are going to be tackled, and we're very happy to have today with us His Excellency Ricardo Guerra de Araújo, the Ambassador of Brazil. Brazil is, of course, the holder and the host of this year's conference. Last year, Baku was the host, and we had the Azerbaijani ambassador with us. Ideally, we should have the troika, the diplomatic troika in the room, because that's the format every year. But apparently, there is limited interest with the very special exemption of Brazil, I must say. You were here last year as well, so that shows your country's dedication to the topic. And indeed, Brazil is a very central place on the planet, considering the importance of the Amazon forest. And it's not by accident that Belém was selected to host this year's conference. So I think it's we have a host of very important issues to discuss, and unfortunately, we'll have to skip the next segment of our meeting already, because due to an emergency, the Environment Ministry is not going to be able to hold her speech. But after the session dedicated to the Brazilian presidency, we will have a very nice expert discussion on these topics with diplomats, academics, politicians as well, the right mix. And the purpose is also to debate how to enhance maybe Romania's role and capabilities. How can Romania have a voice that is better recognized internationally in these topics? And maybe I should ask, are we actually striving to be better recognized for this sort of positioning do we want to have a sort of international signature on climate diplomacy as a front runner, or not? I mean, considering the political consensus of Bucharest, you wouldn't see so many trailblazers, fighting to push forward climate science and climate ambitions. On the contrary, I think Romanian politics is rather conservative on this front, and that shows, and also in our policy making and in our public discourse. But again, like it or not, there is a reality and there's going to be a reality check regardless. So I'll stop here. I took the liberty to speak a bit more, considering that the minister will not be present. So, yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Radu Dudou, President and co-founder of the Energy Policy Group. Now we are concluding the welcoming remarks session, when we are going further to the keynote and the session that is dedicated to the presidency of Brazil of COP30. And we have the chance to have with us today His Excellency, the Ambassador of Brazil, Mr. Ricardo de Guerra de Araujo, which will deliver a speech, and then we'll have a small and nice surprise for you, a small documentary related to what's going on in the Amazonia and how Brazil is trying to preserve the environment, and not necessarily just the environment, but also the cultural and ethnic heritage in the region. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Bună ziua, every one of you. Let me, first of all, say thank you to the organizers of this very timely event today, our host, Mr. Vlad Nistor, for the invitation. Also, Mr. Radu Dudou. It's my second time that you invited me to come over and to deliver a speech on climate policies. And to the opportunity that you are giving me to share with you today Brazil's views concerning global climate change and the next COP30, of course, that is going to take place in Brazil in very few weeks. My presentation, mostly like last year, will be divided in 3 small sessions. The whole presentation will take about 10, 12 minutes, and it will be followed by a short video about the Amazon forest and the indigenous people who live in this huge tropical forest in Brazil. So the first block of my presentation is going to talk about the climate change and the road ahead. The second chapter, I will mention the role of the private sector, a very important issue nowadays, how to finance climate change policies. And the third and last block of my short speech will be dedicated to COP30. So, block number 1, climate change and the road ahead. I would like to start by saying that the best available science and recent events around the world demonstrate, beyond any doubt, the urgency for the international community to intensify efforts to keep global warming within the limits agreed upon the Paris Agreement that Mr. Dudou has just mentioned. It's 10-year anniversary this year since the Paris Agreement was adopted in France. Our challenge is to increase ambition in the national targets we have set, the famous NDCs, while simultaneously accelerating and expanding concrete action. Concrete action, I guess this is maybe the most important words concerning climate policies, including the rapid mobilization of climate finance, technology, including capacity building as was promised by developed countries, including, of course, the European Union, to which Romania belongs. The most vulnerable ones are already in a disproportionate way carrying the burden of our actions and the consequences of our inaction. We have no time to waste. The road to COP30 will be decisive for humanity's success in combating climate change, especially towards the goal of limiting the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Reaching the goal of 1.5 degrees imposes unprecedented challenges, which require an equally unprecedented collective response. Between now and COP30, in just a few weeks ahead of us, countries will present, hopefully, their next round of commitments under the Paris Agreement of the climate change, of the Climate Convention, the so-called nationally determined contributions, as I mentioned before, the NDCs. It will be important for the integrated set of NDCs to align global efforts within the 1.5 target. As Mr. Dudou has mentioned before me, unfortunately, so far, less than a half of the participants in the upcoming summit of COP30 have already presented their commitments. But we are optimistic that they will do their homework and present their commitments before the COP30 starts beginning of November in Belém. In parallel, under the Brazilian presidency, the former Brazilian presidency of the G20, the task force of a global mobilization against climate change is working on the structural changes needed for global macroeconomic and financial alignment towards the 1.5 goal. Always bear in mind the 3 pillars of this policy, which are pillar number 1, the social one, pillar number 2, the economic one, and pillar number 3, the environmental. So any climate policies should also always follow these basic principles of social, economic, environmental pillars. Second block, the role of private sector. The fight against climate change demands a whole of society approach, including efforts from the private sector. We need to boost the mobilization of public and private finance towards sustainable development, climate resilience, job and income generation, technological progress, and industrial growth. The implementation of Article 2.1.c of the Paris Agreement is urgent, very urgent. Despite consistent growth over recent years, global annual climate financial flows are insufficient, most of which is concentrated in high-income countries and China, and in mitigation climate action. The GST, Global Stocktake decision, recognizes the role of the private sector in climate finance and highlights the need to strengthen policy guidance, incentives, regulations, and enabling conditions to reach the scale of investments required to achieve a transition towards low greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilient development. We need a much stronger engagement all around the world, but especially from the private sector on climate action for adaptation and resilience. Block number 3, the COP30. In a context of climate urgency and geopolitical challenges, the COP30 to be held in Brazil will provide a great opportunity to incentivize meaningful topics to Brazilian society with the framework of the climate regime, connecting these debates to the priorities identified in the context of the Brazilian former presidencies of the G20 and of the BRICS Plus. As its guiding thread, COP30 could bring the agenda of fair transitions. Very important, this principle of fair transitions towards low carbon and climate resilient economies based on the promotion of sustainable development and the fight against hunger, poverty, and inequalities. Worth highlighting here that the COP30 will be preceded this year by the Leaders Summit on the 6th and 7th of coming November in Belém, that will organize different thematic sessions. One of these sessions will be dedicated to the multilateral cooperation for the preservation and sustainable exploitation of forests, a very important topic for Romania as well, since Romania has one of the most important forest areas in European Union. An important deliverable in this session is the adoption of the document Call to Action on Integrated Fire Management and Wildfire Resilience. Another very important topic for Romania, how to combat forest fires. Another strategic deliverable will be the launch of the Fund of the Tropical Forests Forever. Worth reminding that forest fires constitute one of the most visible and dramatic manifestations of climate change, and therefore is one of the utmost importance to recognize that this topic is a central element in the adaptation agenda. In a nutshell, COP30 in Brazil aims to be a milestone in strengthening global climate action in this decade, in all pillars of the Paris Agreement, namely, and I remind you all, number 1, mitigation, collective alignment to the 1.5 degrees Celsius objective of the new NDCs to be formally communicated by every country. Number 2, adaptation, that is, conclusion of the work program of indicators for the Global Adaptation Goal, the GGA, adopted at COP28. Number 3, financing. That is the follow-up of the climate finance objective adopted at COP29 in Azerbaijan, and the results of Brazil's presidency of the G20 to regulate under the UNFCCC the alignment of global financial flows with the Paris Agreement. Article, I remind you all, Article 2.1.c, in favor of investments in developing countries for mitigation and adaptation. Number 4, capacity building, which is creation of an institutional strengthening mechanism for developing countries, linking the work of the former Brazil's G20 presidency this year in designing climate packages for industrial policies and attracting investments to the COP30. Number 5, technology, that is operationalization of the new technology implementation program and digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, of course, to accelerate and scale emissions reductions and build resilience. Last but not least, number 6, fair transitions that I have just mentioned, which is protecting workers' rights and combining the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities with the objectives of sustainable development, with an emphasis on combating inequalities between and within countries, and considering the historical responsibilities of developed countries for climate change. So this is the end of the first part of my presentation today. But it's also with great pleasure that I present now the international exhibition Somos Amazonia. We are all Amazonas. Perspectives for indigenous cinema. This exhibition, which is part of the Somos Amazonas cultural platforms activities in dialogue with COP30, is a celebration of the art, memory, and resistance of the peoples of the forest. You remember when I mentioned the 3 pillars: social, economic, and environmental. So this is very much targeting the social pillar of this climate policies. It is also an invaluable opportunity to bring Brazil and Romania closer together. 2 countries marked by the living presence of nature and a growing awareness that the future depends on how we care for it now. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to access all Somos Amazonia content free of charge. Simply register using the form available via this QR code. In a few days, you will receive an email from Somos Amazonas confirming that your access has been granted. Next follows the short video named Nosso Modo de Lutar, which in Portuguese means our way of fighting. Through the eyes of 3 indigenous women filmmakers, the audience is invited to experience a 20th century free land camp in the middle of the tropical forest and discover how the many indigenous people in Brazil and how the way of existing are unique ways of resisting and fighting. This short video will take around 15 minutes. I hope you will enjoy this very short video about indigenous people in the Amazon forest. Thank you very much for your attention. I guess the video is now being screened on the... I'm going to stay here so I can also watch the video.
Para mim é muito bom estar vendo essa diversidade de povos indígenas aqui na TL. E eu me sinto fortalecida também, sabe? Estar nesse espaço hoje, né, que esse ano completa 20 anos de mobilização de territórios, né, presentes. Eu acho que esse é um grande espaço para discutir, propor, ouvir.
Para nós, como cineastas indígenas mesmo, é bom a gente presenciar isso, porque é uma forma da gente também estar mostrando essa diversidade, com esse olhar, né, da mulher indígena, né? Porque assim, nós mulheres, nós podemos perceber muitas coisas que ninguém percebe.
Quando você vai viajar de avião, você vê um monte daqueles quadradinhos assim, que a maioria é pasto, soja. Eu fico pensando, né, como que o Brasil inteiro era indígena e tem tanto espaço sem nenhum indígena.
Cabra chegou, deixou nossa terra complicada. Ele não ajudou em nada o que ele veio fazer, de nossa terra tomar.
Aqui no ATL tem uma anciã, que é uma pessoa que assim, eu tenho muito respeito, que é a dona Coruja, né? Ela tem esse conhecimento de mundo, que é um conhecimento muito importante para nós povos indígenas, né? Porque ela consegue dar uma aula de história todinha através de um canto.
Fala que foi Cabral que descobriu o Brasil. Cabral ele não descobriu nada. Ele veio foi roubado.
Eu sou Riquibai. Eu sou Aratiú. Aimimira Reni Paré.
Eu sou Pancararu.
Chama Guarani Pula. Palimiteiro Caminha.
Eu sou Pataxó.
Eu sou Borari.
Jarauani de Maricarajá.
Che Etinia Kaiuá.
Eu sou Trucado.
Eu sou do povo Borumcrem. Baneu Anai. Chama Guarani Pula. Eu sou Kaiuá. Tocona Anha Atu Animbu.
Isso é uma somatória de uma grande luta que os nossos avós no passado tiveram e a gente continua mantendo essa resistência todo dia.
A gente se prepara, né, para a gente estar aqui participando tanto dos debates dentro da plenária, dentro dos plenárias das mulheres, plenária da juventude. Então a gente vem para isso, para fazer essa imersão de estar aqui junto com os parentes e essa troca, né, também entre os parentes, tanto de artesanato como musical.
Através das nossas pinturas, a gente conseguiu colocar, tirando da pele a pintura, botando nas roupas. Então, isso é muito gratificante para nós, né? Porque se a pessoa está comprando uma peça, ela não vai estar comprando só um pedaço de pano, um pedaço de uma roupa só, né? Mas sim é uma história que tem ali contado no grafismo, né? Então acredito que ela vai estar levando uma história.
Tenho meu cachimbo que é feito do Juremar. Eu tenho meu cachimbo que é feito do Juremar. Oi da casca eu faço rim pra beber meu ajucar. Eu pego meu cachimbo, jogo a fumaça pro ar.
É muito bonito. Todo mundo aqui tem uma força, tem um canto.
Como os mais velhos da minha comunidade falavam, que os povos indígenas é o único povo no mundo pelo menos que a gente tenha conhecimento, que luta cantando e dançando.
Quando faz alguma luta, eu sempre canto essa música. A gente fala que é para devolver a nossa floresta. E ele sempre fala da coletividade, né, que a gente tem e fala, vamos caminhar juntos.
É uma das ferramentas mais importantes de luta, né? Foi em 1500 e é até hoje.
A gente existe, estamos aqui, seja os que nascem dentro dos territórios, seja os que estão nos centros urbanos, e seja os que estão no processo de reconhecimento, de retomada, né, da identidade. Vamos caminhar pelo caminho bonito e não vamos errar o caminho.
A gente tem que mostrar as nossas origens, né? Porque tudo tem um significado pra gente.
Essa é a marca do meu povo, a nossa clã, das famílias que tem no território. Cada marca, ela tem uma representatividade. Essa é Bairro Caleiro, que é uma família só. Então essas marcas a gente herdou da nossa expressão, que é a onça, né? A gente saiu da onça. Ele se usa quando você vai para uma guerra, você vai para algum evento.
Essa aqui é nossa tintura sagrada, utilizada como amuleto de proteção.
A pintura representa uma guerreira espiritual. Levar esse conhecimento que é feito, né, através das pontas dos dedos. O preparo é pelas pontas dos dedos, para fazer é feito pela mão, pelas pontas dos dedos. Então, trazer também essa riqueza, né, feito pelas mãos, para que aquela pintura seja expressada, que é uma linguagem.
O digue que a gente fala, né? A gente pega a semente, ferve bastante e te faz totalmente com a regra, porque senão não sai a pasta.
Existe uma técnica milenar envolvida nessa sabedoria, né, indígena das mulheres.
Quando eu tenho assim 15 anos, já está acompanhando minha avó, está acompanhando a minha mãe. Minha mãe é exador, cunhada de ser. A minha avó também.
A gente decidiu fazer uma cozinha comunitária porque a gente gosta da nossa alimentação trazida do nosso povo, macaxeira, batata, cebola, verdura. Então tudo isso a gente trouxe de lá, do sertão pernambucano.
Desde criança que a gente cresce, quando a gente completa 4 meses a mãe, a gente já começa a colocar os nossos artesanatos. É como fosse a nossa roupa, né?
Esse daqui nós chama de sauia, cordão que você chama, a gente chama de gomo. Aí essa função que tá aqui é guarro. Essa daqui é a mecanal.
Chupicom, o que é? É semente de canamari que traz paz. Ela passa energia de paz para as pessoas.
O segredo é nossa ritual, a desenho. Isso aqui é nossa ritual.
E aqui nós estamos usando porque nós estamos felizes com os outros povos, né? Com os outros etnias de todo o Brasil. A gente tem que estar em harmonia para a gente buscar os nossos direitos.
A gente precisa usar isso aqui porque é a nossa entidade. É ela que vai proteger, vai passar energia boa pra gente lutar em conjunto com outros povos aqui no acampamento Terra Livre.
Cara, é mais assim, quando você vai na guerra, né? Quando você vai numa batalha, que nem agora está acontecendo, né?
Você acaba saindo um pouco da sua bolha do território para conhecer esses territórios diversos, somar essa luta em coletivo em prol dos parentes Guarani, dos que estão no sul, centro-oeste, sudeste, mas que existe essa força muito coletiva para dizer a gente existe. A gente quer que aquele território seja demarcado. A gente quer que... E a gente vê aqui que a mobilização ela é coletiva, não é separada, não é juventude, homens, mulheres. É uma luta coletiva entre crianças ao ancião, né?
Nós estamos aqui, a gente é fruto dessa resistência até hoje.
Agronegócio estão acabando com o nosso povo originário indígena no plano do encerrado. Esse recado, nós estamos vivos, a luta continua.
Adeus a Brasília, até o ano que vem. Adeus a Brasília, até o ano que vem. Se eu não morrer, eu volto. Se Deus quiser, eu venho. Se eu não morrer, eu volto. Se Deus quiser, eu venho. Se eu não morrer, eu volto, né? Se Deus quiser, eu venho mesmo.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention. So this is also Brazil. This is also Brazil, and it's one of the Brazil aspects in Brazil that few people know, but you know, this is a reality in the Amazon forest nowadays that we shouldn't turn a blind eye to. So once again, thank you very much, and I guess there will be a question and answer session now. So I'm ready to answer any questions you would like to raise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for the opportunity of being with us today once again, and thank you so much for your speech, insightful speech regarding the preparation of the COP30 conference, and also thank you for introducing ourselves to the platform Somos Amazonia and also to the world of Amazonia. Now, please remain seated. We'll have like a 2 minutes logistic break, and we'll go straight directly to the next panel, the expert panel, with very wonderful and fruitful discussions, and then we'll have a Q&A session, and then after the launch. Thank you so much for being with us, and please remain seated.
And we're gonna start just now. You can take a seat. Actually, this is the purpose of this event, I think, connections and to discuss meaningful subjects. So greetings, everyone. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests from diverse sectors, partners and colleagues. And also I see a lot of young people in the room, which makes me very happy for the future. My name is Elena Alexandra Miron. I am a researcher at Energy Policy Group, and I am beyond honored to moderate this session, not only because it means a lot and it has been said in the keynote speeches by our distinguished keynote speakers, that it is a year that combines and aligns a lot of elements, but also it is very important for us to bridge the gap and create this somehow of a dialogue platform for discussions and dialogue. So I would start by saying that the aim of this event is to create a space for shared reflection and dialogue. A setting where perspectives from government, diplomacy, academia, but also youth and civil society can come together to examine how Romania can strengthen its role within the European and international climate diplomacy network. So we have been discussing a little bit about the global scene and what has been happening and what are the objectives, the goals, and the scopes. And we are very happy that the Brazilian embassy and ambassador is here because we've learned a lot, and you mentioned about the interdependencies between economic, social, and financial and environmental elements. So this is somehow of a very good foundation for our discussion today. So today's panel will explore how Romania can consolidate its position within the international and European network of climate diplomacy in the context where cooperation, credibility, and informed engagement are increasingly vital, essential, I would say, to the success of global climate action. So the discussion will examine how Romania's current level of involvement is shaping the European climate agenda, the challenges, of course, linked to institutional capacity and ministerial coordination, the ways in which the country, Romania, can enhance its visibility and expertise and influence within international processes. So we spoke about mitigation, adaptation, financing, capacity building, leadership, and ambitious but realistic pathways to achieve our goals. So I will highlight again that the focus will be on identifying directions for strengthening Romania's diplomatic engagement on climate, ensuring that it becomes a coherent and strategic component of the country's foreign policy, aligned with both European priorities and global efforts to accelerate implementation of the Paris Agreement. So it is my honor to introduce our distinguished guests, panelists who bring to get together perspectives from government, diplomacy, academia, but also a wide range of perspectives. So I will invite them individually to take a seat at their specific place. So I will start with Ms. Mihaela Frăsineanu, State Councillor at the Prime Minister's Chancellery. Thank you. I will go further with Ms. Tatiana Iosipar, Head of Unit at the National Energy Regulatory Authority, but also former Special Representative for Energy and Climate Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Going further, Mr. Felix Zaharia, Diplomatic Advisor to the Minister of Environment, Waters and Forests, and also a member of the Compliance Committee of the Kyoto Protocol. Last but not least, Mr. Bogdan Antonescu, Lecturer of University of Bucharest. So before we begin, I will set the scene with some, well, not logistical, but I think just setting the scene and let you know about the expectations of this session. So it will be about how to discuss about the shared reflection to a more focused perspective. And we will start with two general questions to frame the conversation around Romania's positioning within the European and international climate diplomacy, and then move to institutional perspective. So I think this is the logical and actually coherent way to start the conversation and to make it interactive, or try and link it to what has been said before, but also to hear your opinions as well. So I would say that the format is intended to be interactive and fluid, encouraging dialogue among panelists, but with you also, the audience. So we will conclude with a short Q&A session, as I said, to bring reflections and questions from the room, and also some conclusions. So without further ado, I would start our conversation. And I would like to open with, as I said, two overarching questions that frame today's session. But these are meant to set the common ground and common understanding, maybe a shared value as well here in the room and also at home, about Romania's positioning within European and international climate diplomacy. So I would start with the first question that is addressed to every single panelist. And I would start with, how would you describe Romania's current role within European and international climate diplomacy, and what are the main opportunities, because we are talking about opportunities more than obstacles, and what are the main opportunities for strengthening it in the upcoming years? So how can we make climate diplomacy a little bit stronger in the following years? So I would go to Ms. Frăsinanu. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here and honored. And I have to admit that I am not an expert, not even in climate change and not even in diplomacy. But I am a woman who wants to learn for his entire life. But let me start by saying something in Romanian. Bună dimineața! Cum ați descrie diplomația românească, nu doar cea climatică? Seamănă puțin cu clădirea în care ne aflăm? Veche, solidă, dar cu oameni tineri care vor să facă ceva, care vor să aducă un suflu nou. Nu vi se pare? Sorry for speaking in Romanian, but it's something that it's touched me, because this building, it's quite solid. Inside of this building, there are a lot of young people that wants to bring a new role in this diplomacy, climate diplomacy. But this building, it's a little bit dusty. Right? And I think to shake our minds in order to have a stronger position, not even in European Union, but also around the world. Because I saw the maps over here, and you already know that we have a strategic position. And we have to know how to benefit from this. Because right now, I think that we are not having a strong position. Not in diplomacy, not in economic sector, not in energy sector. And in the last couple of days, I was at many events where people talking about this, talking about the needs for a clear and, I don't know, maybe open position for our country. Because, yes, we all know that we are member of the European Union, and we have to have the same position, political, geopolitical, strategic, but we also have to understand that for our country, the need for independence, economical independence, and not only, is, sorry, it's my phone. It's something that we really need. And to answer to your question, I will say that we are aware at that level, at the Prime Minister Chancellery, that we have to understand the need for talking with each other and have trust, talking with all the experts and have trust in their position. And then to go to negotiate all our needs. Because until then, I don't think that we really had a strong position. And I will give you such an example as climate law that were launched by the European Commission at the beginning of this year. And yes, at that moment, we said, okay, it's good. That is the way we have to be there. But now we start to put so many questions and to see that we need a lot of money and a lot of time to be there. Our country needs this because we are not prepared to be there. And now we have to negotiate more and deeply to have some kind of, I don't know, postpone or not postpone, or more funds to, I have to find better words in order to make me understand, but in order to find our way, because yes, all the country from the European Union wants to help us, but we are not right now able to know where is the need, the real need, and in this regard to make the changes, maybe the mental changes for this way. But looking at you, you are all young and very young. I'm not younger anymore, but we need you because we have to build a very good position for Romania, and you have to fight with us to gain this position. I don't know if I answered to your question, but I want to set something. And I will say another thing in Romania. Cred că știți cu toții că limba română este una din cele 27 de limbi oficiale ale Uniunii Europene. Ceea ce am recomandat tuturor reprezentanților României de-a lungul timpului și vă recomand cu tărie tuturor celor din sală este să folosiți limba română. Trebuie să-i facem pe cei care încă nu știu limba română, încă spun, să o învețe. Credeți-mă că am întâlnit chiar și în România oameni care conduc companii care contează în ecosistemul acesta de mediu, care nu știu limba română. Și îmi pare rău. Și recomand, pentru că în felul acesta îi veți face pe cei din jurul vostru să fie mai interesați și să-și dorească să învețe limba română. Gândiți-vă numai unde suntem situați și care este importanța poziției geopolitice și geostrategice. Și vă îndemn. Da, înțeleg. Yes, I understand that you have to know English in order to be able to speak with all the experts. Yes, but you also need to use Romanian languages because it's our nationality, it's our country, it's our language, and we have to be proud for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So indeed, you mentioned a lot of keywords that I got here, and put some notes here because are very important. So trust, negotiate our needs, a little bit of the funding situation and investments, but also mental shifts or mindset change. And I think it's very important that you highlighted the youth in the room as well. So yeah, going forward, we're gonna have a little bit more time in the specificity of the questions to dig in a little bit more. But thank you so much. And I would go next to Mrs. Josipur with the same question. I will repeat it just so we have it here. How would you describe Romania's current role within the European and international climate diplomacy? And what are the main opportunities to strengthen a little bit our position? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here in the capacity of former Special Envoy for Energy and Climate Diplomacy. I think I'm uniquely positioned to speak about climate diplomacy since this position was established in 2021 when I returned in the headquarters after a mission abroad. This issue hasn't been dealt in the Foreign Ministry in this way. It is an issue that's been split between several departments, and this was the first time when it sort of had a coordination from one individual in the Foreign Ministry, very much similar to other foreign ministries in Europe and elsewhere. I very much appreciated your remarks, Councillor Frăsinanu, and I probably agree that maybe from afar our climate diplomacy looks like this building. It's a little bit dusty, but and maybe there's a need to be a little bit more proactive. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Maybe that doesn't get the headlines that it deserves. The Foreign Ministry is only a part of what Romania is doing in climate and climate change and climate diplomacy. I'm here with my former colleague from the Foreign Ministry and currently in the Ministry of the Environment, who will speak about what the Ministry of the Environment is doing with the support from the Foreign Ministry on a great deal of initiatives. Just because there are so many young people in the room, maybe they are not all familiar with how the Foreign Ministry is organized in the climate diplomacy. We have a network of climate missions abroad, where we have diplomats that are paying a close attention to the developments in climate change in the countries where they work, and they inform the Foreign Ministry, and in their turn they carry out our initiatives and our démarches when they happen. And we have a few examples in this regard. In COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, we organized a high-level roundtable on climate education. That was an opportunity for us to present what we do and also to liaise and to create new connections with countries that have a similar interest. It was a very good event because climate education was a non-controversial issue. Everybody could rally behind the need of more education of how to prepare younger generations to deal with the climate crisis. And also action. Being more proactive means that something has to go on in the country, in other areas, so we can promote them abroad. It's not always just a matter of rallying behind somebody else's initiatives. Sometimes you have to have your own initiative and to be able to present it in our contacts. And I just have one example, a German initiative called Climate for Peace. It was an initiative that we joined, I think in 2023, and how we could do that. Of course, we were invited by the German Foreign Ministry. That was an initiative that they were very proud of, that was launched after their presidency at the G7. And this initiative had a number of actions that we could very much participate in, and there were two projects that were carried out under the raw aid financing, in forestry and biodiversity conservation for the Republic of Guyana and Suriname, and another one in the integrated management of river sea systems in the Republic of Ecuador. So those were two projects that were carried out by several institutions in Romania. One was the Universitatea Transilvania from Brașov, and the other one was Institutul Național de Cercetare Dezvoltare pentru Geologie și Geoecologie Marină, GECOMAR. So it's easy to have an active and a proactive climate diplomacy when there are things that are happening in the country and then can be later on used in our international démarches. How can we make this better? Of course, we have to have dedicated diplomats. Diplomats, par excellence, they are journalists. They handle every issue, as the ambassador so astutely presented their Brazil's priorities for COP. Diplomats deal with a wider range of issues, so they're not necessarily experts in one field, but that doesn't mean that they cannot very much promote Romania's climate objectives and climate initiatives. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it was, I think this shows once again two not different perspective, but two different perspective from different people can really interlink. And I think the panel really has begun to see some similarities here. So what I noted here are Romania has a lot of examples. Maybe we're not communicating them as much. And I think the climate missions and the diplomacy network is such a good thing that we can discuss and expand on in the next minutes. And also, I think, yeah, going further, I would love to see and hear about the opportunities from your perspective, Mr. Zaharia. Thank you.
Very much, and thank you very much for inviting the Environment Ministry to take part. I need to express the apologies of Minister Buzoianu. She would have loved to come. She would have loved to come to deliver an introductory speech.
A bit closer, yeah.
Right. To deliver an introductory speech. She will be most likely. Can you?
I think we have a technical problem with the microphone. That's sharing. Thank you so much.
All right.
Really appreciate that.
Now we can hear each other.
Thank you.
All right. So she would have loved to come here to deliver a speech. Most likely she will be heading the Romanian delegation to Belém. And she's very much looking forward to discussions. We are trying to schedule a meeting with the Brazilian Minister of Environment. And the minister is really, as most of you have seen, really engaged into environmental issues, and she would love to exchange with Minister Silva her experience in the Brazilian context. Now, coming back to the climate change and the climate change negotiations, the climate diplomacy, as my colleague Tatiana was saying, it's in the foreign ministry, the issue of climate and environment has been dealt in several departments, including the department which I was heading for a while, the treaty department, because environmental regulation, environment moves at the international level, particularly through treaties. So this is mostly treaty law. And we were discussing about COP. It's the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Again, a treaty. Then we have the Paris Agreement, the Paris Accord, a treaty, and the Kyoto Protocol. So again, a treaty. So in this capacity, I was into environmental treaty negotiations. Then I moved to the environment ministry because this has always been, of course, the first actor in this negotiations has always been the Ministry of Environment, and I wanted to assist them, to help them in better improve the capacity of the ministry in negotiating all these very sometimes very technical issues. And I think this is, and continuing the positive spin that Tatiana gave, I think that the great asset that we still have in the authorities, in the ministries, are some very dedicated people. On climate change, not many, unfortunately, but on climate change, on chemicals, environmental impact assessment, and others. And these people are practically on a daily network. They are integrated in a daily network of exchanging views among themselves, but also with their colleagues in the European Union. Because this is one of the points that I wanted to make. Climate regulation and climate negotiations has become it's an EU policy. And Councillor Fresineanu was mentioning the European climate law, which we are currently negotiating to amend, following a proposal from the European Commission. And this is one of the essential aspects that we take into account. First and foremost, we are in the European Union negotiating among ourselves to present a common position at Belém in Brazil. And as you all know, the EU has taken this leading role at the forefront of climate change measures. And this has not it's not easy to implement in practice. We have, as Romania and as Eastern European countries, we had this advantage that was negotiated in the UNFCCC process of targets that take into account a baseline it's very advantageous to us. But this advantage has passed, and now we are at the point where we have to take some very forceful, I would say, measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And in this context, and this has been one of the advantages of the climate change negotiation process, that solutions for doing this are incredibly smart. And the mechanisms that were developed along the way, so these COPs have this essential role of developing this very complex mechanism to address climate change emissions reductions, to address monitoring, to address compliance, and so forth. And we in the network are able to exchange with some very dedicated people, also very smart people, who are able to put together some solutions that we could use together in dealing with climate change from a policy perspective. And then, of course, from a regulatory perspective, which is again very important in the economic context. So that would be my intervention.
And thank you for the reflection. What I noted here, you mentioned, and I think all of you so far mentioned a lot about collaboration and interministerial coordination, but going to the EU level as well, but to the global level, having these interdependencies of the view and reflections. So you were talking a lot about regulations and negotiation process, which are pretty much the essential part of everything. I cannot wait to go a little bit deeper into the subject, but going to Mr. Antonescu, I would ask the same question to open the floor. Thank you so much.
You hear me? Yeah, my perspective, it's
So sorry for that. I think
So my perspective is from academia and from research into this. Obviously, there are a lot of connection between the scientific community and this part of climate diplomacy, but I would say that it's not explored enough. So there are many opportunities now in the climate community in Romania. Probably many of you know that we have a lot of experts in very exotic parts of climate change and very important parts of climate change that are once this increase of global mean temperature will increase, you will see that some of this will become relevant, like tipping points of a climate system and so on. So it's a lot of expertise currently now, and it's a new generation that is coming now with a lot of inputs from like PhD students working on different topics of climate change. But we are in a way favored because the position of Romania, the geographic position of Romania, gives us all the extreme weather events and the impact from climate change. So we can study this in details. So I would say to be brief that this part can be explored more, and the scientific community can contribute more to these negotiations. Obviously, there are institutes that contribute to COP and so on. But there is a large scientific community in Romania now working on climate change, and not only in climate change, but aspects related to climate change, for example, and pollution and so on. So that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone. I think this ties up very amazingly the first part of our conversation, and I think we have some opportunities actually on paper right now. Hopefully, we can share them afterwards to see what we discussed about. I think what you said, Mr. Antonescu, it's about expertise, and there is expertise, but maybe not a lot of collaboration, and maybe there's the main opportunity to do so. So being mindful of time, because this conversation can last a long time with passionate and involved people in these subjects. I will go further with the specific questions, and I will try to combine them to make sense for the conversation and for you to, at the end, to ask some questions. So going to Mrs. Frăsinanu again, I would go with a combination of how can coordination across ministries and agencies or the relevant actors in the interministerial coordination can be strengthened. And then also the key steps to coherence amid political or institutional changes. Maybe the consistency, or what's your take on that? That would be very interesting to find out your take on strengthening, but also consistency and representation. You spoke about it already, but maybe going deeper into the subject. Thank you.
Thank you also. I just reminded that that we really have a climate diplomacy because, as you remember, at COP28, I think, in Dubai, yes, our president signed a treaty or US initiative related to global methane pledge. And as we already know, all of us, methane is one of the most polluted greenhouse emission. And it was a result, signing this initiative, it was a result of our diplomacy in climate change, of course. But also, we have another initiative from the Ministry of Energy, because in August, Ministry of Energy just published a proposal, a law proposal regarding Energy Charter Treaty, because you already know that the European Union and Euratom makes the step and sign out from this treaty. And the Ministry of Energy, of course, with the help of other people, took this as an opportunity to make something different. And I believe that when the Romanian parliament will approve this kind of law, we'll have some other perspective in energy sector. But let's say something about the efficient coordination process, because maybe it was a thought, and I believe that my colleague Zelinka, who is here in the room, is a young colleague that would like to have some opportunities to work in this climate diplomacy area, proposed me permanent interministerial mechanism, just like a national climate negotiation committee. What do you think about this? Because in this kind of committee, we have the opportunity to have experts, private sector, maybe university, why not? And member of the central public authorities that and agencies related to this domain, and we can set through this committee an official position, and we can learn more about each other in this kind of committee. Think about it. Can be a proposal, and we will embrace it. But until then, I have to say that we have some kind of coordination at the prime ministerial level, because we have an interconnected committee for climate change, interministerial committee for climate change. Sorry, but I'm not in my best form because of my spin. I have some problem. Okay, and in this committee, we try to set a lot of rules related to our steps in climate change and in private sector in order to have a better policies implemented in our economy. And this committee, this interministerial committee, has also adopted this year and last year a plan of priorities. And we are now at, I think, 60% of this measure already implemented, not only in our legislation, but in our private sector. And I believe that this is the best way to deal with this climate diplomacy. But because in this committee, we'll try to set also the Romanian position at COP30, because we have to have this all kind of institution, and not only institution, to have to send us their position, and in order to be put it in our position for this COP30.
Oh, I got that. Thank you so much for ensuring that the answer is robust, because I asked you 2 questions in one in a way. So I understand that we have, and just sharing with the public, we have some coordination. We have some instruments. It is real need for coordination at maybe like a more national level, I would say, but also local and decentralized. But this would be an opportunity as well. And you talked about the cooperation, like the leadership that Romania had, and maybe how to strengthen that. And then you talked about the achievements and the objectives that we have as well, maybe communication in terms of what we are doing and we are actually achieving would help a lot with the population as well as the experts, and how can they get to you to where the decision is made and help or support technically.
Now, you already know that my door, my personal door from my office was all the time open for this kind of initiative, mostly from your side, from our side of young people. And you know that I'll do it all that I can to support you and to be present, because I know that beyond the opportunity to tell about your worries and to tell about your concern or your action, you need to be you need to have a better support from the authority. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. You highlighted exactly what we were saying about coordination. So I'd go be mindful of time, and I wanting you to have the opportunity to ask questions. I would go to Mrs. Tatiana, and I would just try and merge the two questions. So what would you think are the key elements needed for Romania to consolidate its position, but also the experience that we have with the network that you were talking about, launch in 2021, if I don't remember wrong. Exactly. And yeah, maybe you're working more on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, the experience of the pilot network, it's a positive one, because again, it sort of structures what we do in the foreign ministry, both the headquarters and the missions abroad in climate change. We know that there are dedicated diplomats who are following the issue, and from an institutional point of view, that is sort of the best way to go around. But I will stop a little bit, and I will go back to what Councillor Frăsinanu just said, and to underline again how important CISC is, because I think you're referring to CISC. We know it as the Comitetul Interinstituțional pentru CISC. Yes. It's instrumental in bringing all the central institutions together and keep them focused on what we need to do, what our commitments are in terms of climate change. And since you mentioned the global pledge for methane, this is, and you mentioned engagement. This is what we do, and Romania is engaged in a large number of initiatives. And I will just very quickly just read the headlines of them, because they are very numerous, and they will give you a little bit of a sense of what we do. Paris Agreement on Climate Change, Global Offshore Wind Alliance, International Solar Alliance, Glasgow Leaders Declaration on Forest and Land Use, UN Group of Friends on Climate and Security, Climate for Peace Initiative that I just mentioned, UN Group of Friends on Climate and Security, Geneva Pledge for Human Rights in Climate Action, High Ambition Coalition to End Plastic Pollution, Ocean Conservation Pledge, Protecting the Ocean, Time for Action, High Ambition Coalition on Biodiversity Beyond the National Jurisdiction, Declaration on Zero Emissions in Shipping by 2050, Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate. These are just a few. So indeed, engagement is one of the key words. And as far as the foreign ministry is concerned, yes, I think the network, I don't think we call it pilot anymore, because it's been up and running. It's doing a very good job. Thank you.
Really, thank you for that. And I think you need to share the list with us so we know already, and we can, communicate from this event. Thank you so much. I really wanted to, go further with one follow-up question very shortly, because I think everything makes sense with everything that you said already. So what kind of support structures, or maybe training or capacity mechanisms or resources we need, and we can help to create a professional community of maybe climate negotiators or climate technical experts inside or outside the ministries?
As far as climate negotiations, I think Felix would be in a better position to say how can we support better climate negotiators?
Thank you. I think this kind of discussions that we are having are extremely useful for us. because we are overwhelmed with all the environmental issues that we have to deal with, and climate change is just one of them, incredibly complicated, but just one of them. Organizing coming from the authorities, the initiative to organize this debate poses a simple logistical challenge. So there is not enough time for the few experts that I mentioned to also deal with the logistical aspects of organizing, of bringing the people together. But having the discussions is essential for us to start preparing the frameworks of the Romanian position, which then goes into the EU position, and then it's presented further. So I think this is the essential contribution, bringing all of us together from various authorities. Yes, we meet, we coordinate all the time, but we don't have the discussion amongst ourselves. The discussions are of course of a technical nature, and we are also concerned about our competencies, and each ministry has its own priorities, and the priorities of the Ministry of Environment do not always match with other ministries' priorities. We were discussing with the Ministry of Agriculture, and for us, methane gas emissions we need to reduce them, but the Ministry of Agriculture thinks of cattle and the number of cattle that needs to increase. So this is one of the debates that we are having. So bringing us together in a less formal setting with your experts that can bring different perspectives into the discussion, I think it's essential for us moving forward.
So this is kind of the question following to you, and then it's good that we combined and merged. I wanted to, not to challenge you, but to ask you, maybe not concretely, because we are not here to discuss concrete action, but we are here to discuss and maybe debate. It already started. How would you see this happening? What would be the ideal, I don't know, next step or opportunity for us to engage a bit more, but also create capacity in any way, shape, or form, even if it's slow?
So yeah, building on what I've just said, even if having this discussion, for example, in the presence of the Brazilian ambassador, who puts forward the Brazilian perspective on the negotiations, and every country hosting the negotiation has done this, is crucial. It is for the very first time that we have such a clear view, and choosing Belém as the city host of the COP has been a great, despite the logistical problems that we are all aware of, but has been a great initiative of the Brazilian presidency, future Brazilian presidency, because it brings countries who are negotiating into the mindset of the region, of a crucial region of our planet that influences the climate change, the climate system. And for us Romanians, it's exotic. I mean, we have to admit it. It's very exotic, and this is why having this kind of discussions here is essential. I think I wouldn't have had the time to meet His Excellency, and I'm very sorry for that. But and to discuss about COP, because everything it's so busy. So I'm sure the minister would have loved to meet, but of course the door is always open. And I thank you, and I thank the institute for hosting us. So that, again, what I have just said, it's essential for us. Thank you.
So to sum up very shortly, conversations like this, debates, but also having, involving and initiating some kind of conversation with different sectors like this one, but maybe sometimes more informal.
Not only state actors, and but also the private sector. We are relying, and this is one of the priorities that the Brazilian presidency has put forward, the involvement of the private sector. And this is because we see that in the negotiations themselves, we have reached the point where it's so difficult for us to reach an agreement. You were mentioning yeah, we are having in mind the withdrawal of the United States from the Paris Agreement. The difficulties of you most likely have followed the proceedings before the International Court of Justice. So another avenue of having this discussions, that so trying to have various avenues. And now we have this very strong message from Brazil that we should get into the private sector into the discussion. We should also get the cities, that they play the other sub-statal authorities, the provinces, everyone who can do something to be involved and to participate in the decision making, but also in the effort sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Yes, I just wanted to jump in because you mentioned capacity building. I compare a little bit this climate change ecosystem with the energy one that is very active. They're meeting together all the time. You have an opportunity to meet other experts in energy, private companies, and you hear a lot of points of view, and that's extremely helpful. I'm not sure this is happening in the climate change ecosystem, whether the people who are involved. I was really happy to hear from Professor Antonescu that there are experts that maybe we can draw from their expertise. It will be very nice to meet them and to have opportunity to exchange views. So at least we know, where we are and who could be the people that we can go with a question. Maybe they can come to us with an initiative or a solution to something that we face.
No, exactly. It really naturally became a very meaningful conversation, and also some recommendations for the public, and not only for the public institutions as well. I think going to not the other side, I would not say that, because we are always dividing, but maybe another perspective. Thank you.
Another perspective regarding this collaboration, right? We need to know each other, right? But unfortunately, in the scientific community, we don't know each other very well. This is a problem because we tend to work in these small pockets or silos. Everyone is doing his own research, is publishing papers, is going to conferences, is writing a proposal for a research project, and that's it. And we don't tend to communicate among us very well, or especially outside the community. And this is what I think we are missing, this like a stable and routine channel that is coming from research or academia going to policymakers that put it in general. Another thing that maybe this communication is not very well is because the way in which scientists are communicating to the large audience. We write papers, and the papers are read by other scientists, so we are fine with that. But we don't tend to simplify these papers or translate the results into something more concrete. For example, when I say most of the time that there is an increase in 1.5 degrees, it's nothing. But if I say that, this will lead to more heat waves, maybe again is nothing. But if I say that this is leading to more fatalities, and Romania is one of the countries strongly affected by this fatality to heat waves, this is more impactful. So this is the way that we should communicate. There are more and more papers now, specifically for Romania, not the large community, that tend to have at the end not recommendation, but some ideas for policymakers. I know colleagues of mine that are doing exactly this. So with the idea that, right, we have some money from a research project, we are studying. I'm returning to heat waves again. Maybe we can be more specific towards policymakers about our result and so on. So this channel needs to be from our part. And again, this communication will help us as well, because maybe there is something from the policymakers that we can help with designing studies or focusing on some aspects that are not very interesting for the scientific community, because maybe these are results that were published before for other countries. So we don't tend to do these studies, but for publishing, because this is the academia, publishing or perish. This is maybe not in Romania as much, but outside this is true. But we can do all sorts of research. And again, yes, there is an increasing community. I will end it with this. Very soon there will be a center of excellence in Romania combining climate change and societal aspects, and this will be like let's put it like a hub, bringing researchers specifically from climate sciences, but also historians, linguists, mathematicians, in topics related to climate change. Maybe this will help making this connection better.
Think because I used to be a researcher and a teacher at the Faculty of Geography. I really understand you and your position, and just why the Prime Minister Cancellery was part of a project with the Norwegian Institute of Research and universities. And I think that in February already launched a guide related to the researcher. And the most important underline and the most important conclusion from this guide is that we need to go from fundamental research to applied research. Just what you said. Then you'll find some recommendation and some good recommendation made with the Norwegian perspective and knowledges in this guide. And I think that this recommendation can be used in order to have a stronger position and help the authority to take the better solution and to have a stronger position in this kind of negotiation. And it can be read by everybody. You will find this guide on our website. And please read it and give us the feedback, because we really need to know if we have to develop something and to make some other policies and make some other projects, and to take into account other expertise from national or European level, and not only from the European level. Thank you.
This is very important. And the guide, you said that it was like kind of co-created. So I think co-creation could be a good keyword of this session, but also collaboration, but also a little bit more of understanding what's happening, because it's, subjects like this can be very complex. So we need to kind of look into it a bit closer. And Bogdan was mentioning, the 300 pages, and I see the IPCC reports as well. They're like big, but also what they're doing nowadays for the public as well is to summarize that. And I think that's, bringing a bit of the communicational side in this region. Well, we are talking about Romania now, so I will go to a follow-up question to Bogdan. I think it ties up to the debate that we had. Okay. I would merge, how can scientific evidence and research can be better integrated? And then what are the opportunities for closer collaboration? I think you touched upon, but I think going into it a bit deeper.
Yeah, I said that channel that I mentioned, that's the main point. I think we are doing now research that can help, not especially with policymakers in mind, but research that will show what is happening with climate change or what is the impact in Romania at the moment, but also using this climate simulation for the future. So this knowledge is there and can be used as well. And as I said at the first question, we are in a very nice position to conduct all sorts of studies that can be very, very useful. But we need to change in academia as well. So this is something that we need to do to see in the future, because it's not, we cannot blame nobody's reading our studies, but we need to be more proactive, as you mentioned, like the IPCC is doing. But from my point of view, even the policy, the summary for policymakers in the IPCC, it's quite complicated. What used to be very complicated in previous iterations. So something more direct, like a 2-page or something like that, that can be not completing the science, but maybe finding other ways of expressing the result into a more impactful way.
And I will open the floor in a minute for discussions because our time is almost there. But I would go with this idea just a little bit for the help and support for maybe national mandates for climate negotiations. Not going into too deep, but I would ask what's the opportunity to include more perspectives, I think. And maybe you said that sometimes the technical people do not have time, and we all understand that, but is there an opportunity? Maybe just an open question. Thank you.
Thank you. I was drafting the what should go for approval as a mandate. It's I think I would take this up in I used to teach the University of Bucharest, and we used to organize with the student Model United Nations Conference. And whenever I tried to have climate change as a debate with various mandates given to students, we would always end in a deadlock. So it's very complicated in terms of drafting the mandate because the positions are so different. It's incredibly hard to put together something that is coherent when you have these very, very different positions. And this is why in the climate change negotiations, we have always relied on trying to change human behavior. It seems to be almost impossible. So then now we are looking into, and this is another area where we would really need help. It's technology. As humans, we have always relied on technology to save us from various challenges that we have on this planet. It seems that again we are relying on technology. We hope, for example, we put a lot of hopes into the carbon capture and storage technologies. The EU is putting these hopes, but again, we are at the forefront of what could be done. We're not sure yet. A debate on this, bringing scientists and engineers at the table would be again very useful. Thank you.
Much for going a little bit in depth in that. And yeah, it is a complex world, but we opened the discussion and I would love to give the floor to Radu. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
One is coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very interesting, and we're grateful to you all for the insightful points you made. I would just like to follow up briefly a bit on Bogdan's concern about the right way to engage the policymakers, how to maybe better translate the scientific results into, let's say, meaningful measures and actions eventually. And your take, Bogdan, was maybe you ought to be a bit grimmer, as it were. So think of it, dead bodies, casualties. I mean, this sort of
Example.
I'm not sure because I mean it's impactful, no doubt, but then you have those already denouncing the apocalyptic slant, so they are skeptical anyway, and then here they are trying to scare us off again. I mean, it's not working. Maybe it is, but a proposal from my experience. So one example, I was part of a working group a couple of years ago at the presidential administration. We worked for about 6 months or so on a report on the state of climate in Romania. There was the former presidential council for climate change and heading this, and the experience was nice. There was a team of academics and scientists, national and international Romanians, okay, from various foreign universities, policymakers, few think tanks, and so on. And the early engagements were like this. We were discussing basic statements of EU policy, for instance. And then some, let's say, scientists, Romanian scientists from Paris, for instance, would say, I don't even understand what you're talking about. What is this net zero? This is a concept that scientifically makes no sense. And I thought, my God, isn't this a wise guy? I mean, this approach would lead absolutely nowhere. Because if your take as a scientist is to absolutely go against the very entrenched, policy concepts and try to dismantle them and discuss the basic function, role, and then meaning. This is a dead end. Instead, you should work with them, imperfect as they are, accept their limitation. You as a scientist know better what those are. Treat them as proxies for better concepts and mechanisms that you have in your theories. And at the end of the day, it is up to the scientist to learn and speak the language of the decision maker. If you want to make an impact, write something concise in the language that the decision maker has on their agenda. In those words, don't twist them too much. So use their vocabulary, use their words. Do not preach, do not send bibliography. Here, these are the 10 articles. And I see that often. I see scientists across the country saying, Mr. Minister, here are 2 articles that would shed some light on. Come on, do you think any minister will sit after hours to read your papers? I mean, so unless you're able to make this sort of bridging and use their language, use their concerns, use their priorities, and inject the kind of practical knowledge that you have, it's the communities will remain apart, divided. Scientists doing their work and complaining that they're not paying attention to. Politicians, decision makers simply not knowing about those guys, and so just a suggestion. And but then, of course, it's not that easy because the mission of the university must be redefined. Our universities are not used to getting engaged into the agora, as it were, into the problems of the day. It's not our business to discuss, potentially contentious issues and so on. But then, who else is going to offer, the guidance? Okay, I'll stop here. I think it's worthwhile reflecting upon.
You were tying up the conversation, and we are at the conclusions and remarks. So here, please, one question from the ambassador. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yes. Well, thank you very, very much indeed for sharing your views with us today. And yes, well, the 2 words that come up from sharing your views with us is, communication and coordination. Of course, these are the key words. As far as Brazil is concerned, we have struggling to do that in Brazil for the last 30 years since we organized the Rio Summit back in the 1990s, and we're still struggling to improve this coordination and communication process in Brazil in order to make information and negotiation positions more fluid among the private, public, and academic sectors. And not forgetting the NGOs, because this is probably the most challenging partner in this coordination process, is how to include the NGOs in these discussions and in this, and it is not an easy task. And Brazil knows very well how difficult it is to do that, but we are still improving in this sense. And you were right, Mr. Dodo, when you said, well, we need a more efficient narrative or efficient speeches about climate change that the public, the audience, can understand. You know, the skeptical, the climate skeptical narrative, or the skeptical climate scientists do this very well, and they know how to use punchlines to say, well, climate change doesn't matter, you know, it's not an issue, it's not anything that matters or need our attention, and maybe we need to make it more affordable or more popular to the normal people that are not scientists or are not technical in this, or don't know technical words concerning climate diplomacy or climate. And I was very, very happy more than happy to know that, well, the Minister of Climate, of Environment is heading the Romanian delegation to Brazil in a few weeks, in 3 weeks. I only hope that you also will attend this Leader Summit. That is one of the sessions is going to be dedicated to multilateral cooperation on the preservation and sustainable exploitation of forests, reminding that Romania has the most important primary forest in the European Union, and so this will be a very important moment for Romania, maybe to share its views and its opportunities and challenges concerning forests in the European Union, among other participants of the COP30 in a few weeks. Again, we'll thank you again for sharing your views, and we'll be looking forward to welcoming the Romanian delegation in Belém. It's true, it has been a challenge. Logistics has been a challenge. Belém is not like Rio or São Paulo. It's not like the short video I have just shown you. It's in the middle of the Amazon forest. So, but that was a trade-off, you know, to logistic against, you know, bringing the participants of this COP30 to the real thing and to the real deal, which is the forests and how in the middle of the Amazon. And even if the logistics has been a challenge, we are trying very hard to tackle this problem and to welcome all of you, and especially Romania, for this next chapter of the COP30 in November. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tying up everything together and also highlighting again the importance of, cooperation and multifaceted maybe approaches and the frameworks as well. Very happy to hear that and to hear your thoughts. So maybe I'm opening the floor to any other questions as well. We have a little bit of time. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Daniela Smetanova from the Czech Embassy in Bucharest. I would like to thank you for organizing this debate. It was super interesting. And I have maybe 2 questions. Maybe following the ambassador, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned cooperation between ministries and academia. I wanted to ask you if there are any network in cooperation with civil society in Romania, how it works, if you can elaborate on that. And also, as you mentioned, climate diplomats within the embassies around the world, if they are really dedicated to the climate as it is, or they are part of like a political diplomat also covers climate as we do, or if Romania has really dedicated climate diplomats, that would be interesting for me to know. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that. Whoever would like to take the floor.
I will pick up the second part of your question regarding the diplomats. No, they are diplomats that deal with a lot of issues. You hear me? Yeah. Our embassies are not that large to can afford to have people dedicated to a single issue. Usually they cover more, and it's also an expression of personal interests. There are people that either have a background, some educational background in this, or just have an interest in the climate change issues, and they are the ones that are covering the issue at the embassy. We had, I think, about 40 embassies in this network. It also has to do with the country where they work, whether that's an important issue for that particular country. And we had a very successful example in Denmark. Our embassy in Copenhagen was one of the most active embassy in this network, because Denmark is a leading country in this issue as well. And as far as the cooperation with the NGOs, there were various ad hoc formats. Maybe one of them was mentioned by Mr. Dudeau, but I don't think there's something that's structured and something that's permanent.
Anyone would like to take the floor, and maybe the approach with the civil society, not only probably the NGOs, but anything as such? Thank you.
You have seen that the Ministry of Environment has been engaging with NGOs. I think we haven't had a climate discussion. We have been concentrated on forests, if you have seen, and bears particularly. But yes, it's very, so it has been the minister's priority to engage the NGOs, the civil society in general, into the environmental discussions. This would be one of them, but it's not only NGOs. So at this table we should have as I was mentioning, the private sector, the industry, because it's them whom we are requiring to take active measures to combat climate change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we want to follow up? I mean, Bogdan, do you want to come from the other side as well? Maybe no? From the NGO sector to how you feel like you were engaging a bit.
With NGOs, yes, there is collaboration, of course, into this. When they write reports or they need data or all sorts of details, there is a very good collaboration in this way, yes.
Very much for the very relevant questions to the discussion. Maybe opening the floor to more questions. Don't feel free. It's an open discussion, so no hands raised. Maybe perfect. We have there. Please specify your name first. Thank you so much.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Morascu Julia, and I'm a student at the University of Bucharest at the Faculty of Political Science. We mentioned climate and security and how they're related, and recently security is all that the European Union has been talking about. And my question would be, how can we translate the dialogue we have on climate change as a matter of security into actual functional policies and maybe more action? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the question. Someone has some thoughts or any opinions? Thank you.
Very good question, and we have to talk about it because until now we didn't have any kind of action or discussion related this issue, but we really need to start our discussion because otherwise the security and climate change and the diplomacy on climate change will remain separated, and it's not quite good because if they will remain separately, we will not be able to ensure the security in our country, and otherwise the private sector will not gain the competitiveness that he really needs.
Thoughts on that maybe? just opinions if you have. Thank you.
I'll jump in. We are already having the discussion at the European Union level from and so yeah, but I'm at the European level, all EU member states, in the context of security and of the creating this framework for security, for defense, and we are also looking into environmental and climate change regulations, how they could be adjusted, let's say, to address all the security issues that the European Union is facing. So it's an ongoing discussion. It's true that it's a very technical discussion that goes into the regulations themselves, the EU directives and the EU regulations, but it is an ongoing process. Now, in terms of concrete actions and how the two can be linked, I think we're still there is some measures to agree upon, and then there will be action. And this would be the role of everyone present, in fact, to convey their views on what should be done and what they see that could be done, so that these can be taken up into the process of decision making. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for this. And indeed, it was a very good question. Going back a little bit, just because I noted some things here, going back to the collaboration with ministers and the approaches. I would not want to share that much because Radu was very on point with everything. But as EPG, we have a signed protocol as well with the Ministry of Environment, and trying to support them in some technical ways in regards to COP as well and other related issues. So I think this is important, and I think this is the diplomatic approach maybe, or the systematic approach that we need, and could be an opportunity. Just so I remembered. Thank you so much. Any other questions from the room? Hopefully you got, yeah. Oh, I see a lot of hands. Thank you so much. Perfect.
Hello. So my name is Mihai Constantinescu. I'm working for the Romanian Diplomatic Institute. So actually we took notice of what Councillor Frosineanu and also Madam Ambassador Iosipor said about the climate diplomacy. And I will have like a small announcement and also a conclusion, a bit of a conclusion of this event. Thank you so much for choosing us to host this event. But also I would like to announce that together with our friends from Federația Patronală pentru Energie, we are actually organize a training course dedicated, specialized on energy and diplomacy. And I think some of you will be also lecturers or also participants here. And hopefully this will represent a start for a thoughtful discussion on the relations between the relationship between energy and diplomacy. Thank you so much, and have a nice conference so far.
That really ties up with opportunities as well. This discussion is not only a debate, but also, opportunities, shared opportunities and visions. I've seen another hand, and maybe taking that one. We have a little bit more time, just 5 to 7 minutes maximum.
Thank you. Thank you for the very interesting discussion and thoughts. I am Tinka Prunea and a researcher at the Romanian Diplomatic Institute. And I have a question that relates to the first remark and perhaps to Mr. Bogdan Antonescu's thoughts. I was wondering, it's also a personal worry perhaps, how one could adapt the discourse in order to make this climate change facts impactful, right, and conclusions, the conclusions of your research. But on the other hand, avoid eco-anxiety, right, in children and teenagers, which is a very damaging let's say, effect of such a discourse that has a positive intention to make us aware of the urgency, of the dangers, and so on. But on the other hand, right, there is this pitfall of eco-anxiety. Thank you.
Thank you. It is complicated because there are not so many good news from the climate change. If you look at the fundamental climate change, not solution to climate change, there is nothing except for the ozone hole recovery. There is nothing positive, to be honest. Yeah, sorry, positive. Mr. Udo said that it was a green perspective, but I was just trying to emphasize in this idea, even for climate scientists, it's sometimes very complicated to work only with bad news because I don't know, when I talk with mass media, with TV station or radio, and I try to communicate stuff, recently I decided to add something good, even if it's a very, very small part, because I'm always ending with this, with messages that go directly to this eco anxiety, and this is in a way really bad because it can be explored by a climate negation, climate skeptics. Let's put it this way, because you can say, "Oh, this is the only bad news," and it means that there's nothing we can do, so we can go as we are now. So this is a new way of doing this climate skepticism. It's very complicated because on one hand, I want to have a message that raise attention, like, look, this is something that has an impact on day-by-day life. Maybe it's human lives, crops, or something like that. But in the same time, I don't know how to make it very very clear that there is hope in that part, because we are doing this in an idea that we can reduce from this impact. This is, unfortunately, I don't know how to do it. This is something that it needs to be done together with psychologists or something, some people in this area, because it is a problem for even for climate scientists to work in this field sometimes, to be honest. It is weird, but yeah, this is we try to avoid this. I try to avoid this to conclude by including this message that sometimes, look, it is bad, but we can do this, and this means that we can reduce the impact or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it is indeed a very important question. And we see the interdependencies that we spoke about in the first beginning, and well, coordination of some elements that we need to take into consideration when talking about policy. I will just see if there is any other short question brief. If not, we can, continue after the session with the lunch. So any other? I don't want to miss anyone. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. Yeah, of course. Please, Radu, you can take the floor over there.
Yes, just by means of concluding very briefly, we at EPG are very grateful to our hosts, the Romanian Diplomatic Institute colleagues, to our great panelists today, and the audience, of course, which is quite a substantive audience for the topic. In particular, I'm very grateful to the real climate diplomacy team in EPG, led by my colleague Ioana Vasiliu and Elena and Daria. It's a nucleus of people. Katerina from our communication department has been working hard with the counterparts. So yeah, my climate diplomacy team will make sure that next year again this conference will take place just before COP31. We don't know yet where COP31 will be, not even at this point. No, it's either Australia, which is most likely, but Turkey is very adamant still. At some point we will know. I think the odds will tip towards Australia for next year. But anyway, we will be here to debate the status just before COP31. So thank you all again, and yeah, you are invited to have a bite, I think, or is there I'm not
so-
saying anything wrong here.
No, nothing wrong.
There is.
Just, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. So thank you so much, Radu. And I want to thank you as well, the distinguished speakers, but you as well. And of course, we are inviting everyone to next year. So thank you so much, very much. And Iwana as well, and the team.